OutRun 2 is a modern arcade classic. It is a racing game where your only real goal is to get as far as you can using your Ferrari, with your girlfriend sitting on the front passenger seat, and have a good time while doing it. You don't really have any opponents except for show, they don't matter, you just have to get from point A to point B. It is a sequel of the universally acclaimed original 1986 OutRun, and it feels like everything the previous game did, but overhauled. The super arcadey, totally unrealistic handling feels great. The tracks are gorgeous and genuinely fun to drive in, and the new drifting mechanic is a blast. This game is a love letter to old 80s arcade games created by the one and only Sega AM2, and directed by Yu Suzuki, the creator of milestone games like Virtua Racing, Daytona USA, Virtua Fighter and Shenmue. It is as good as it gets for a classic arcade driving game. You can basically play a part of this game on everything that has a screen attached. Since this game came out on Xbox, PS2, PSP and PC, which you can either buy for cheap used or emulate even on mobile phones now. Some of you might wonder, why hasn't this masterpiece been converted to HD? Daytona USA, Crazy Taxi, Virtua Fighter, even the House of the Dead 3 were all ported to the PS3 and the Xbox 360, but you can't find a port of OutRun for these consoles. Well, the game was in fact ported to both PS3 and Xbox 360, but it was delisted and rendered unpurchasable after just 545 days. And this means that during the last 10 years you simply couldn't buy this game, being an online-only release. And this wasn't even Sega's fault, since the problem was a licensing one. The Ferrari contract expired and they couldn't really do anything about it. But well, I have managed to snag a copy of the game, and today, after 11 years from its release, we are going to take a deep look at it, so let's see what this exactly is. But first, if you're wondering how I managed to get a copy of a game that's unpurchasable, there are a few ways to do so. Apart from the obvious, more nefarious ones involving piracy, you can still officially download the game from an account that has bought it back when it was still available to buy. And you can just share the license to your account and you're good to go. You can get the game onto your console. If you aren't lucky enough to be able to do so, there are some eBay sellers that are willing to share their game license with you at, well, not a low cost, but it's something you can do. Anyway, now that you know how you can get this game in a really convoluted way or just by straight up pirating it, which is illegal, let's talk about it. This port was made by Sumo Digital, a UK-based developer that also made all the other home ports of the arcade game. They are indeed mostly known for making ports for lower-end hardware, like the Forza Horizon 2 Xbox 360 version, the Dirt 2 Wii and PSP port, but from time to time they also get some proper full-fledged multi-platform work, like developing Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Sega Superstar Tennis, Crackdown 3 and even both versions of Little Big Planet 3. They also recently released a racing game of their own in collab with Lucky Mountain Games called Hot Shot Racing. So yeah, this company definitely knows how to make an OutRun port. After starting the game, we are greeted with two game options, single and multiplayer. As the title suggests, this is indeed an online arcade game, but we'll come to this later. For now, let's focus on the single player mode, which lets us analyze exactly what this is. The game is based on the coast-to-coast PC port, and we can clearly see this by data mining it. But unfortunately, for size limitation issues, at the time Microsoft only let Xbox Live Arcade's titles be 350 MB tops. It only features the OutRun USP mode, and this means we only get 10 cars to choose from and 5 game modes. The classic OutRun mode, in which you have to simply try and go as far as you can through this arrow-shaped course, which is composed of 15 tracks that can be explored in different order, the Heart Attack mode, that lets you complete a series of challenges to satisfy your girlfriend, the Time Attack mode, where you have to beat the time of a ghost, and finally the 15 tracks continuous OutRun and Time Attack mode, where you have to go through all of the tracks. We obviously have the great OutRun OST here, including Splash Wave and the one and only magical sound shower. So, how does this play? It's a HD port of OutRun to USP. Plain and simple, and I say this in the best way ever. The controls are extremely responsive, the driving always feels great whether you drift or not, the gameplay is super addicting and you will lose hours to this. The frame rate is almost always 60 FPS, there are some slowdowns when a lot of stuff happens on screen, but they aren't really impacting the game honestly, and the graphics, while simple and unchanged from the 2003 release, looks stunning when upscaled to high definition. Now, as we said before, this is an online arcade game, and there was something I was really curious to try out, and that was indeed the online mode. You might see a small decrease in the video quality now, and that's because to try this I had to use my actual PS3, and my capture card isn't on par with the emulator I was using to record the other footage, but the PSN doesn't work with emulators, so yeah, I had to do this using my real console. Trying to connect to the servers led me to this error where it told me no one was connected to them, which makes sense for a 11-year-old unlisted game, but it left me wondering if these servers were actually still up in the first place, since this game couldn't be purchased for the last 10 years. I desperately needed to find someone to play with. So after one day, I asked my partner to download the game and we tried connecting to the servers. The servers for this 10-year-old unlisted unpurchasable game are still up and running for some reason, and they work great. As the host, you get to choose between different tracks and modes, turn on the catch-up, while as a client you can only choose your car and its color. We tried having a few races and the online play was super smooth. And this is ironically the only official way you can play OutRun 2 online at the moment, since all the other servers for the other versions were shut down years ago. I will leave a link in the description to the uncut gameplay of the online mode, since I wanted to fully document this while it's still working. The lobbies do support a maximum of 6 players, and it will be nice having a game night in the future here, so I decided to open up a Discord for this YouTube channel that you can also find in the description here, where we can maybe organize something like this in the future with this or other dead but still live online games. This is honestly a good port to pick up and play, if only you could actually buy it normally. And it's a shame that it was removed so early due to the Ferrari licensing issue. It's also a shame that it had its cars cut from the original coast-to-coast port, but that's Microsoft's fault as we said before. And it's also ironic that the 350 megabytes limit was lifted just right after this game came out. By data mining the game, you can find all the unused data still here from coast to coast, including all the cut cars, which I tried enabling by renaming stuff around with not great success. And the folder also isn't really cleaned up, and you can definitely see this is a port from the coast to coast PC version. There is even a config file left over here to remind you that. This port seems to be as solid as it could get given the restrictions Sumo Digital had to work with, and it probably could have been the definitive OutRun 2 home console port if it weren't for these issues that weren't even their fault. The gameplay here is rock solid, and it's a shame that only a handful of people have managed to enjoy this version before it was gone for good. Hadn't the game been unlisted so quickly because of the licensing issues, Sumo could have added the missing tracks back as downloadable content, which also was a rumor back then, but well, this never happened, so we are stuck with this. The few ones that actually can play this game. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick in-depth analysis of the port, in which case please leave a like to let me know. You can also leave a comment below here, subscribe, check out the other videos I make here. It really helps small channels like mine a lot due to how YouTube works when recommending videos to people or keeping existing subscribers engaged. You can also find me on Twitter, and yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching and goodbye!